public service announcement. Excuse me. If y'all didn't know, this is the MSC, and frankly, there's just too many white people in here, and this is a space for people of color. So just be really cognizant of the space that you're taking up, because it does make some of us POCs uncomfortable when we see too many white people in here. It's only been open for 4 days, and frankly, there's the whole university for a lot of y'all to be at, and there's very few spaces for us. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Hi guys, don't you just love the smile that she had at the end of it? While just making everyone else uncomfortable, she just felt happy. Because guess what? This was her exercising her privilege in being a victim. So let's talk about Black History Month. Now, some people may say, hey, what is Black History Month and why would we celebrate it? Now, let's understand this for a second here. There are several different things that came up during my childhood. Like when I was very young, I never heard of Black History Month. I am originally from Jamaica. As I got older, I started to hear more about it. And Black History Month used to take the flavor of remembering the greats. Like for us, it would be the heroes. It would be like Marcus Garvey, Nanny of the Maroons, and Sam Sharp. And those guys were there because they helped usher in freedom for blacks in Jamaica. Then as we got older, it became P.J. Patterson, who was a prime minister, Michael Manley, another prime minister, Bob Marley, because he sung a lot of things. One of his favorite statements is emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. It actually was first said by Marcus Garvey, then Bob Marley took it over. But that was celebrating that. Now, you have to understand, growing up in the 80s, early 90s, that was pretty close to the 1960s. So you were very connected to it. And on our television in Jamaica, you would see scenes of, mainly Martin Luther King, Selma March, all of that stuff. So there's a connection there, right? That you could see. And after a while, with the proliferation of the internet, when I started to travel more, I started to see that there is opportunity, lots of opportunity. So therefore, Black History Month, I think after a while, a lot of people, maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s, people started to talk about inventions that, celebrate the great inventions that black people contributed to. And so there came in the plethora of inventions, from the refrigerator to the stoplight crossings, all of that stuff. All of it was debunked as fake, right? But what started to happen was people were not just happy with the narrative of, hey, Black History Month stands for freedom and the freedom fighters. They were now saying the contribution that blacks made to the to the economies and that. And if the great focus was on the United States, in Jamaica, I would say 95% of the people are black. So Black History Month would be weird because 95% of the people are black. So I think it's really a US holiday that has proliferated across the world. Now, what happens is, we had that first wave, as we said, of celebrating the freedom fighters and the history of slavery and coming out of slavery and segregation. So that was the first wave. The second wave was, hey, what did we contribute? Then people started to become creative and they made up a lot of things that black people were supposed to have created, but it was all debunked. Now we move to another time of Black History Month, which I think is trying to find its meaning. And one of the things that I think has happened is that right now we are at a different stage in our development, and now we're at that big stage, which is a little frightening for a lot of people. But now we're in the woke era, and in the woke era, a lot of, I think, Gen X folks like me, I'm a young Gen X, are kind of either playing along with wokeism or being critical of wokeism. I find myself more on the critical side because one of the issues with wokeism is wokeism kind of requires you to have a microscope, because you have to find microaggressions. And if you just look at going from a stage of being in bondage to going to a stage to have a separate water fountain, to another stage of, being allowed access, to another stage of, having some set asides. If you look at that, you are in a, it's hard to find the aggression, so you end up with microaggressions. And these microaggressions, I mean, you can find them in anything. In any discussion, you can find a microaggression. And it tends to now put people on edge, because one of the problems that we have is there is a 90s definition of racism, and now there is a 2020s definition of racism. And I think that they're different. I think in the 90s, maybe the 80s, 90s, racism was really having prejudice with power, because without power, how would you be able to exercise that prejudice, right? And now, so that was where they talked about banks not giving loans, jobs not being given, all of that stuff. Now, I'm not saying that does not happen, but I do think that in general, the job market in Canada, where I am, it's great for any color that you are, right? And I don't see it, and I can't see where, I don't see it for myself, and I can't say it just because I don't see it for myself. But I do have friends, and those friends, I've asked them, they don't see it for themselves. And so people of color or black people, I don't see the barrier, right? If you have the right education, if you have the right qualifications, the right attitude, the right commitment, I don't see the issue, right? Now, as we travel in this discussion, what I'm finding now is, I remember this old joke that Chris Rock said, that a rich black man would not be envied by a homeless white man, because the homeless white man still knows that he's white. And I have a story that I think I said it in one of my other videos, but I was in a downtown in Canada. I was in the downtown area, and I was enjoying lunchtime and all of that stuff, and I was walking, taking pictures. I got this brand new extra zoom camera, so I was taking pictures, and lots of different pictures. So I ventured far away and went to a park, and in the park there were two homeless men, and one had approached me, and I did not know what he was asking for. So I literally said to him, "Hey, I don't have anything to give you, I'm sorry." And he was very offended by that. And then he proceeded to call me the N-word. And his friend was beside him, and and he said to his friend, "This N-word guy, he disrespected me. What should we do?" And I looked at them, they looked at me, and I walked away, and I kept walking, and they were there. And I remember asking myself the question, did I experience racism? And I thought about it. And I say no. I mean, these are two homeless guys. Like, the most they could have done is harm me. If they had harmed me, then I think that would be a racially motivated attack. And their power would be the fact that both of them would probably have beat me up, right? But outside of that, how would they affect me? And, something I wonder about a lot is that, are people allowing themselves psychological damage from the words of powerless people? And maybe that's what's happening right now, but I don't know, and I won't speculate on that. But anyhow, so let's move on with this one now. So there was that experience there, that I don't believe that racism is actually effective without power. That's just my thought. And I do believe that right now, what we're experiencing this 2022 Black History Month is some weird stuff. So let's talk about three individuals. So I did do a video on Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan had said the N-word in the past, right? And I don't like saying the N-word, and I said it. I don't do it because I think it's derogatory, and I don't find any pleasure or any benefit in saying the N-word. I just don't. My thoughts are that no one should say the N-word in polite company, because it's not a proper word to say. It's denigrating. And the mere fact that people think that having the privilege as a black person to say the N-word, I think it's stupid, because you're denigrating yourself. So by having the power to denigrate yourself or someone who is black is not a privilege. I don't not consider that to be a privilege. But anyhow, so Joe Rogan, was, supposed to be cancelled and all of that stuff. I don't even know what cancel means. I guess they want him to lose his podcast on Spotify. Now that he said his apologies, and I think Spotify will make the business decision of keeping him, that I think Joe Rogan is okay right now. So that one, I don't believe that Joe Rogan should say the N-word, but at the same time, I don't think any rapper or anyone else should be saying the N-word either, because I think it is a negative term, and I do believe that what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. So that's it. And I do believe that Joe Rogan should go back to his podcast and do what he needs to do. I don't think that it's an unforgivable sin. That's just my thoughts, right? Then you have Whoopi Goldberg. So Whoopi, made an error in saying that, speaking about the Holocaust. And, one thing is that Whoopi is a part of the woke culture. And the thing was, I think with her is that she found herself on the wrong side of the woke culture. And right now, she is in hot water with them. And she apologized. Now, my thoughts on it is that we should not play around with the Holocaust. It's something that happened that was an atrocity, and we should respect it. And as black people, we should understand when negative things happen to our people, and we should respect that. And a lot of times as blacks, we think that we are the ultimate victims, so therefore we do not inflict pain with things that we say, and that should stop. Like, we should not be the short bus people that people say, hey, don't listen to them, they have no sense, they're stupid, so whatever they say, don't add any value to it. If we want to be a people like that, we'll never be taken seriously. So we should respect the fact that this is a negative thing against a set of people, just like what we would do, if anyone said the N-word, right? So anyhow, so Whoopi is the second person. Then we have Awkwafina. Now, the thing with Awkwafina is, Awkwafina, I watched Crazy Rich Asians, and I thought that movie was incredibly funny. I liked it. Had a lot of visual impact. I thought it was a good presentation, all of that stuff. Now, she had a weird character. I did not know what to take of it. Some people said she had a blaccent and, all of that stuff. So what? Like, why should she have to apologize for adopting another way of talking and a way of things? Like, as black people, we adopt a lot of things that are European. A lot of things. And should we stop doing them? And by not doing them, does that benefit anyone, right? And let's look at that. That this becomes, it's like this. Standard English is British. It's a European way. We all try to speak that standard English because it is the way how we communicate with each other, right? Simple. Now, I don't consider it to be speaking white. Then what is speaking black? I think we just have there, and I do not speak like a black American, and people know that because I'm not a black American. And if I try to speak like a black American, am I appropriating? But what if I lived there for a while and I developed that accent? Like, we have to stop this stuff of, this person can't speak and that person can't say that. And a lot of this is being run through Twitter and trolls. And I think that we have given too much power to trolls, because trolls, I believe, there may be 50, 100,000 of them. They know that they can speak to polite, I would call it, the polite society. And the polite society are the corporations and the people who control the endorsements, the people who control the business. And those people can be swayed with 100,000 people saying, cancel him, cancel her. And I think that long time ago, newspapers used to be the gatekeeper of that, and television stations. So it was managed more. It was managed in a better manner. Now it is almost like the barbarians at the gate saying to cancel someone. Now, Awkwafina, I think that she should continue to do what she's doing. There's no problem with that. I see on TikTok several people voicing over the most ratchet African American, statements, and no one bats an eye. I hope they don't start doing that. Anyhow, and our last person is Thandiwe. I always knew her as Thandiwe Newton, but Thandiwe Newton. At first when Thandi apologized for her light-skinned to dark-skinned women for taking away roles and taking away their men, I was suspicious of the taking away men because Thandi's married to a white man for several years. But, I'm still on the fence. Like, was Thandi trolling? Or is it that there is truly a bunch of, and she said it was African American women, dark-skinned African American women who were being prejudiced against her. I don't know what that is, but she made an apology for it. And I couldn't understand the apology because it didn't make any sense to me. But, is it now popular to do this type of crap, right? You're apologizing to a bunch of people for something you have no control over. That honestly does not make any sense to me. But anyhow, what I wanted to say was, I think that Black History Month its focus should change. Its focus should change into more a reflection of where we were, a reflection now, and a strong view on where we are today, and the next view is where we want to be. And I always believe this, that listen, society right now is becoming more of a melting pot, or some people may say a mosaic, where it's all being woven in. And I think that we will lose a lot if we focus too much on race. I don't think race is that important. I think what's most important is achievement and your determination, your commitment. That's what I think is most important. And, if you go back to what Martin Luther King said, that people be judged on the content of the content of their character rather than their skin. I think wokeism does something by focusing on people who are marginalized, and that's a skin identification, and saying that these people need set-asides, need special stuff. And at some point that has to end, because you can't consistently be the victim or the marginalized folks. At some point you got to step out and be on your own. It's like training wheels. Now, I'm not saying that it's ready right now. I won't say that, but we have to be careful, because what's happening to us as a people is that if we allow the segment of folks that want to remain victims to continue to remain victims, we won't grow. I think that some people have to go in the back seat, some people have to be in the driver's seat, and some people have to be in the front seat, this front passenger seat. And I think that right now, the people who should be in the driver's seat are the people who are looking forward to advance themselves, improve themselves. And the people in the back seat should be the ones who need that encouragement to improve themselves, because we cannot continue to be victims. Black History Month in 100 years should be more a reflection on where we came from and a celebration of where we are today. Well, where we are tomorrow. Thanks, guys.